The space station called Meridian floated in the darkness between three great empires. It was a place for meeting and talking, a place for peace. Today, it was full of creatures from 100 different worlds. They had come to meet the newest species to join the galactic community. They had come to meet the humans. David Cole stood near the big window and looked at the stars. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He wore a dark blue suit with a small flag on his chest. The flag showed a blue planet with green lands. Earth, his home. "You look nervous," said a voice behind him. David turned and smiled. Captain Rachel Webb walked toward him. She wore the gray uniform of the United Nations Space Command. Her black hair was tied back, and her eyes were sharp like a hawk. She commanded the warship Resolute, which waited outside the station. "Not nervous," David said. "Just thinking. This is a big day for our people. Our first real trade meeting with the galaxy." Rachel nodded. 40 years since we found out we were not alone. 20 years since first contact. And now, finally, we sit at the big table. The meeting hall was huge. Hundreds of aliens filled the seats. Some were tall and thin with blue skin. Some were short and covered in fur. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. David had studied all of them. The Sylvan Federation, the Centauri Union, the Mordic clans. So many species, so many cultures. But one group made David feel cold inside. The Varn Collective. The Varn looked like lizards that walked on two legs. Their scales were dark green, and their eyes were yellow with black slits. They wore expensive robes and gold rings. They were traders. Very successful traders. And very dangerous ones. David had read the reports. The Varn did not play fair. They found what you wanted. They found what you feared. And they used both to get what they wanted. The meeting began well. David spoke about Earth. He spoke about their technology, their culture, their hope for friendship. The other species seemed interested. Some even seemed excited. Humans were new. Humans were different. Humans might be good partners, Dad. And the Varn leader stood up. His name was Tovik. He was old for a Varn, and his scales had turned gray at the edges. But his eyes were still sharp, still hungry. "We welcome the humans," Tovik said. His voice was smooth like oil. "We see great potential in your species." Great potential indeed. David felt Rachel tense beside him. Something was wrong. "The Varn Collective wishes to propose a special agreement," Tovik continued. "We have studied your territory. You have 3 colony worlds rich in minerals. Very rich. We want exclusive mining rights to all 3. David blinked. That was almost insulting. Those colonies had taken decades to build. Millions of people lived there. Their resources belonged to humanity. "That is a very big request," David said carefully. "Perhaps we can discuss a smaller partnership first. Build trust over time." Tovik smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I think you do not understand, Ambassador. This is not a request. This is an offer. You should accept it. And if we choose not to accept..." The room went quiet. Very quiet. The other aliens looked at David with something like fear in their eyes. Nobody said no to the Varn. Not like that. Not so directly. Tovik's smile grew wider. "Then perhaps you need motivation." David opened his mouth to respond, but Tovik was already walking away. The Varn delegation followed him out of the hall. The meeting was over. What just happened? Rachel asked. David shook his head. "I don't know, but I don't like it." 3 hours later, they found out what motivation meant. David was in his room when his communication device started screaming. He grabbed it and saw Rachel's face on the screen. She looked pale. She looked sick. "David, turn on the newsfeed. Now." He did. And his world fell apart. The colony of New Haven filled the screen. Or what was left of it. The sky was full of fire. Buildings were broken and burning. Ships with Vaughn markings flew overhead, dropping bombs on the city below. "No," David whispered. "No, no, no." The news reporter's voice was shaking. "The attack began 1 hour ago. Vaughn warships appeared without warning and began bombardment. Casualty reports are still coming in, but early numbers suggest 12,000 dead. Mostly civilians. Many of them were children." David could not breathe. He could not think. 12,000 people, gone, just like that. Because he had said no to a trade deal. His device buzzed again. It was a message from Tovik. "Perhaps now you will reconsider our offer. We can discuss new terms whenever you are ready. The Varn Collective is always open to negotiation." David stared at the message. His hands were shaking, but not with fear, with something else. Something colder. Something harder. Rachel burst into his room. "David, the Joint Chiefs are calling. Everyone is calling. What do we do?" David stood up slowly. He walked to the window and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, his people were dying. Somewhere out there, children were crying for parents who would never come home. He thought about what Tovik expected. The Varn expected humans to be angry. They expected humans to shout and threaten. And then they expected humans to sit down and negotiate. That was how things worked in the galaxy. Attack, demand, negotiate, settle. Everyone had a price, but the Varn had made a mistake. A terrible mistake. They had studied human technology. They had studied human economy. But they had not studied human history. They did not know about the towers that fell. They did not know about the camps with the ovens. They did not know about the children on the school bus, or the people in the church, or the concert hall filled with screaming. They did not know that humans had a rule. A simple rule. A rule written in blood. And tears over centuries of horror. We did not negotiate with those who kill our children. David turned to Rachel. His face was calm now. Calm and cold like winter ice. "Get me the Joint Chiefs," he said, "and send a message to every human ship in the galaxy." "What message?" David looked back at the stars. His eyes were hard. "Tell them we are done talking. Tell them to come home. Tell them to prepare for war." Rachel stared at him. "David, the Varn are expecting negotiations. The whole galaxy is expecting negotiations." "I know," David said quietly. "That is why they will never see us coming." He picked up his communication device and opened a channel to Earth. The leaders of humanity were waiting for his call. They were waiting to hear what price he would demand from the Varn. They would be surprised by his answer. The price was not money. The price was not territory. The price was not power. The price was everything. The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest room in known space. It could hold 10,000 beings from 1,000 different worlds. Today, it was full. Every seat was taken. Every species was represented. And every single one of them was confused. Elder Morith stood at the center platform. He was very old, even by the standards of his species. The Sylvan people lived for 500 years, and Morith had seen 400 of them. His skin was like tree bark, brown and rough. His eyes glowed soft green. He had seen many strange things in his long life, but nothing like this. "The humans have recalled all diplomatic personnel," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "They have closed their borders. No ships are allowed in or out. They are mobilizing their entire fleet." Whispers filled the room like wind through leaves. Counselor Veth of the Centauri Union raised his hand. He was a small creature with blue fur and large black eyes. His people were known for their intelligence and their love of rules. This is standard behavior, Beth said calmly. The humans are angry. They are posturing, making themselves look strong before negotiations begin. We have seen this many times before. Morath shook his old head. I do not think this is posturing, counselor. Of course it is, Beth replied. The Varn killed 12,000 of their people. A terrible thing, yes. But now the humans will demand payment, reparations. They will ask for 3 times what those lives were worth. The Varn will offer half. They will argue for weeks. Then they will settle somewhere in the middle. Life will continue. Many of the aliens nodded. This was how things worked. This was how things had always worked. Violence was just another form of bargaining. Death was just another price to be calculated. A voice came from the back of the chamber. You are wrong. Everyone turned to look. A human stood there. He was young, with short brown hair and a strong jaw. He wore a military uniform with many medals on his chest. His name was James Foster, and he was humanity's military attached to the Council. He was supposed to leave with the other humans. He had refused. Lieutenant Commander Foster, Morath said slowly. You were ordered to return to human space. My orders changed, James said. He walked down the steps toward the center platform. His boots made hard sounds on the floor. Someone needed to stay. Someone needed to explain. Counselor Veth made a small laughing sound. Explain what? We understand the situation perfectly. The Varn attacked your colony. Now you will negotiate for compensation. This is simple. James stopped walking. He looked at Veth with eyes that held no warmth. No humor. Nothing soft at all. We have a saying on Earth, James said. We do not negotiate with terrorists. The chamber went silent. The word did not translate well for some species. James explained. A terrorist is someone who kills innocent people to create fear. They murder children to make you do what they want. They bomb cities to force you to the bargaining table. James paused. In human history, we learned something important about terrorists. If you give them what they want, they do it again. And again. And again. So what do? Morath asked quietly. We destroy them, James said simply. We do not pay them. We do not bargain with them. We find them and we end them. Forever. Counselor Veth laughed again, but it sounded nervous now. You cannot be serious. The Varn have 300 warships. They have controlled this sector for 1,000 years. You cannot simply destroy them. Watch us. The chamber exploded into noise. Aliens were shouting, arguing, demanding explanations. This was not how things worked. This was not possible. This was madness. Morath raised his hand for silence. Slowly, the noise died down. Lieutenant Commander, Morath said carefully, perhaps you can help us understand. Your people are new to the galaxy. Perhaps you do not know our ways. Every species has a price. Every conflict has a solution. This is how peace is maintained. James shook his head. Not for us. Not for this. But why? Morath seemed genuinely confused. The Varn killed 12,000. A horrible number. But surely some amount of money, some trade agreement, some territory could make this right? No. There must be something. There is nothing. James's voice was cold iron. You are asking if we will sell the lives of our children for profit. The answer is no. There is no price. There is no deal. There is no negotiation. A Varn representative near the back stood up. His name was not important. He would be dead within a month. This is foolish. The Varn shouted. You cannot fight us and win. Your fleet is a fraction of ours. Your empire is young and weak. Accept our terms, or we will take your worlds by force. James turned to look at the Varn. He smiled. It was not a nice smile. You killed 12,000 of our people, James said slowly. Women, children, families. You burned them alive to make us afraid, to make us cooperate. He walked toward the Varn representative. Let me tell you something about humans. Something your species should have learned before you dropped those bombs. James stopped in front of the Varn. They were almost the same height. We do not cooperate with murderers. We do not surrender to killers. And we are never, ever afraid. James leaned closer. Your fleet is bigger than ours. Your empire is older than ours. But you made one mistake. One terrible, fatal mistake. What mistake? The Varn hissed. You gave us a reason to fight. A real reason. Not for territory. Not for money. Not for power. James's eyes were burning. For justice. For our children. For the 12,000 souls your ships turned to ash. The Varn took a step back. For the first time, something like fear crossed his reptile face. You cannot win this war, the Varn said, but his voice was shaking. Maybe not, James admitted. But we will make you pay such a price that no species in this galaxy will ever attack a human colony again. We will burn your worlds. We will break your fleets. We will hunt your leaders across the stars. And when it is over, the Varn Collective will be nothing but a warning in history books. He turned and walked back toward the exit. Every alien in the chamber watched him go dot at the door. He stopped and looked back. The first human fleet will arrive at Varn space in 72 hours. You might want to send cameras. The galaxy should see what happens when you murder human children. He left. The door closed behind him. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Counselor Veth said something that many were thinking. They are insane. The humans are completely insane. But Elder Morth was not so sure. He had lived 400 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species that seemed unstoppable crumble to dust. Perhaps, Morris said quietly, or perhaps they are something we have never seen before. Something we do not understand. What could that be? Morith looked at the door where the human had disappeared. Beings with principles they will not sell. Values they will not trade. Lines they will not cross, no matter the cost. He paused. The galaxy has never had to deal with such a species before, because such species do not survive, Veth said confidently. The galaxy is cruel. Only the flexible survive. Only those who adapt and negotiate. Morith nodded slowly. That has always been true. But perhaps he trailed off. Perhaps what? Perhaps the rules are about to change. 72 hours later, the rules changed forever. Admiral Thomas Grant stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the stars streak past. The vessel was called the Vengeance. It was the largest warship humanity had ever built. 2 kilometers of steel and fire and anger. And it was not alone. Behind the Vengeance came 200 more ships, destroyers, cruisers, carriers, bombers. Every warship the United Nations Space Command could send. Every pilot who could fly. Every soldier who could fight. They had left Earth 3 days ago. 3 days of silence. 3 days of preparation. 3 days of cold, quiet fury. Commander Lisa Park walked up beside the Admiral. She was a small woman with a sharp mind and steady hands. She had been coordinating the fleet movements for 70 hours without sleep. Her eyes were tired, but her voice was strong. All fleet elements report ready, Admiral. We will arrive at the Varn border in 4 hours. Thomas nodded slowly. He was 60 years old. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before humans reached the stars. He had thought his fighting days were over. He had been wrong. What is the status of the Varn fleet? He asked, 312 ships in their home system. Another 200 spread across their territory. They have recalled everything they have. Good. I want them all in one place. Lisa hesitated. Admiral, some of the other officers are asking questions. About the plan. What questions? We are outnumbered almost 3 to 1. Our ships are newer, faster, better armed. But those numbers. Lisa paused. Some are wondering if we should wait. Build more ships. Find allies. Thomas turned to look at her. His face was carved from stone. Commander, do you know how many children died on New Haven? 12,000 civilians, sir. The exact number of children is 4,322. Thomas's voice was flat. I know because I read every single name. I memorized every single face. The youngest was 8 months old. Her name was Emma. She was sleeping in her mother's arms when the bombs fell. Lisa said nothing. There was nothing to say. We do not wait, Thomas continued. We do not build more ships. We do not find allies. We attack now. Today. This moment. Because every hour we wait, the Varn think they are winning. Every hour we wait, other species think humans can be bullied. Every hour we wait, Emma's memory grows colder. He turned back to the stars. No more waiting. No more talking. Today, the Varn learn the price of murder. And the galaxy learns what happens when you hurt our children. 4 hours later, the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Varn space. The Varn were waiting for them. High Speaker Tovik sat in his command chair on the battleship Dominance. He was surrounded by his finest officers. His fleet was arranged in perfect formation. 300 ships against 200. Victory was certain. His communication officer spoke. High Speaker, the humans are hailing us. Tovik smiled. Of course they are. They want to negotiate. Put them on screen. The face of Admiral Thomas Grant appeared. He did not look afraid. He did not look nervous. He looked like a man who had already made his decision. High Speaker Tovik, Thomas said. I am Admiral Thomas Grant of the United Nations Space Command. Admiral, Tovik replied smoothly. I am pleased you have come to your senses. Let us discuss terms. I am sure we can reach an agreement that benefits both sides. There will be no agreement. Tovik's smile flickered. I'm sorry? There will be no negotiation. No terms. No discussion. Thomas leaned forward. You killed 12,000 of our people. 4,000 of them were children. You burned them alive to gain leverage in a trade deal. That was simply business, Tovik said, but his voice had lost some of its smoothness. Surely you understand. In the galaxy, such things are normal. Expected, even. Now we talk. Now we make deals. This is how civilization works, not human civilization. Tovik's eyes narrowed. Then what do you want, Admiral? Reparations? Territory? Name your price. Thomas was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was ice. My price is everything you have. Your ships. Your stations. Your weapons. Your ability to ever hurt anyone again. That is my price. You cannot. I can. I will. Thomas's finger moved toward a button on his chair. You have 5 minutes to evacuate your civilian population from your military installations. After that, everything with a weapon dies. The screen went dark. For a moment, Tovik sat frozen. Then he began to laugh. Fools, he said. They think they can beat us with fewer ships? Launch all fighters. Prepare all weapons. We will crush them and take their worlds for ourselves. The battle began. It was not what the Varn expected. Human ships were faster. Much faster. They danced around the Varn formations like wolves around buffalo. They struck and vanished. They appeared where they should not be. They killed without being killed. Human weapons were stronger. Much stronger. One human missile did the damage of 10 Varn missiles. Human shields held when Varn shields broke. Human targeting systems never missed. But most importantly, humans fought differently. The Varn fought to win. They pulled back when damaged. They retreated when outmatched. They preserved their ships and their lives because ships and lives were valuable. Humans did not fight to win. Humans fought to destroy. They did not care about their own ships. They did not care about their own lives. They cared only about killing every Varn vessel in front of them. One human destroyer, badly damaged and burning, flew straight into a Varn battleship. The explosion destroyed both ships. The human captain had been smiling when he died. One human carrier, surrounded by enemies, launched every fighter it had and then flew into the Varn command station. 2,000 Varn died. 300 humans died with them. None of them tried to escape. The Varn had never seen anything like it. They had fought many wars against many species. All of them followed the same rules. Fight until the cost is too high. Then negotiate. Humans did not follow those rules. Humans followed only one rule. Make them pay. Make them pay. Make them pay. 3 hours into the battle, Tovik finally understood. This was not a war. This was an execution. The humans had not come to win territory or gain advantage. They had come to deliver punishment. Hail them. Tovik shouted. Offer surrender. Offer anything. His communication officer's hands were shaking. They are not responding, High Speaker. They are not accepting any communications. They must listen. They must. A human missile struck the dominance. The ship shook. Alarms screamed. All breach on decks 4 through 7. Shields failing. We cannot take another hit. Tovik grabbed the communication controls himself. Admiral Grant, please, we surrender. We accept any terms you want. Name your price. Silence. Then, finally, a response. I told you my price, Thomas's voice said through the static. Everything. Another missile hit. Then another. The dominance began to die. Tovik ran for the escape pods. He was one of the few who made it. From the small window of his pod, he watched his fleet burn. 273 ships destroyed. The rest were fleeing, running, scattering across the stars. The humans did not chase them. They did not need to. In one battle, they had broken the back of the Varn military. In one day, they had proven something the galaxy had never imagined possible. Humans could not be bullied. Humans could not be threatened. Humans did not negotiate with those who killed their children. And the Varn had just killed 4,000. 322 of them. Thomas Grant watched the last Varn ship explode. His face showed nothing. Casualties? He asked. 47 ships lost, Lisa reported. 12,000 personnel dead or missing. 12,000 humans. The same number the Varn had killed on New Haven. Thomas nodded slowly. A fair trade, he said quietly. Take us to the Varn homeworld. We are not finished. The fleet moved forward. Behind them, the wreckage of the Varn navy floated silently in the void. A tomb for an empire that had made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had attacked humanity. And now they would learn what that meant. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. 10,000 aliens sat in their seats and stared at the screens. The screens showed something impossible, something terrifying, something that changed everything they thought they knew about the universe. The screen showed the Varn homeworld. Once, it had been the center of a great empire. Massive space stations had orbited the planet. Shipyards had built hundreds of warships. Defense platforms had protected every approach. The Varn had spent 1,000 years making their home. Impossible to attack. The humans had attacked it in 3 days. The space stations were gone. Broken pieces of metal floated in orbit like dead leaves. The shipyards were burning. The defense platforms were silent. Their weapons twisted and melted by human missiles. But the humans had not touched the planet itself. Not one bomb had fallen on Varn cities. Not one civilian had died. The humans had destroyed everything that could fight back and left everything else alone. Elder Morath stood at the center platform. His old hands were shaking. He had seen many things in 400 years. He had never seen anything like this. The Varn Collective is finished, he said softly. Their fleet is destroyed. Their military is broken. Their government has collapsed. The chamber remained silent. Nobody knew what to say. Counselor Veth stood up slowly. His blue fur had turned pale. This is unprecedented. They did not negotiate. They did not demand tribute. They simply destroyed them. Not destroyed, said a voice from the back. Punished. Lieutenant Commander James Foster walked down the steps toward the platform. He had been watching the battle from the human observation room. He looked tired but satisfied. The Varn are still alive, James said. Their people survive. Their cities stand. Their culture continues. But their ability to hurt anyone ever again, that is gone. Forever. You killed millions. Veth shouted. His voice cracked with fear. Millions of Varn soldiers and sailors. Yes, James showed no emotion. They were members of a military that murdered 12,000 innocent people. They paid the price for that crime. Morath raised his hand. Lieutenant Commander, please help us understand. In all of galactic history, no species has ever responded to an attack like this. Wars are fought. Then they end. Winners and losers sit down and negotiate. Terms are agreed. Life continues. This is how civilization works. James looked at the old alien for a long moment. Then he sighed. Let me tell you about human history, he said. Thousands of years ago, on our home world, there was a nation that tried to conquer everyone else. They killed millions of people, put them in camps, burned them in ovens. When the war ended, the winners did not negotiate with them. They destroyed their government completely. They put their leaders on trial and hanged them. They made sure that nation could never threaten anyone again. The chamber was utterly silent. 50 years later, James continued, a group of terrorists attacked our greatest city. They killed 3,000 people in a single morning. Our leaders did not negotiate with them. We hunted them across the planet. We found them in their hiding places and killed them. We destroyed their organization so completely that even their name became a curse. James walked to the center platform and looked out at the assembled species. Humans have learned, over thousands of years, that some crimes cannot be forgiven. Some attacks cannot be answered with negotiation. Some enemies can only be stopped by complete and total destruction. He paused. The Varn killed 12,000 of our people to force us to negotiate. They murdered children to make us afraid. In human culture, that is not business. That is not normal. That is evil. And evil is not negotiated with. Evil is destroyed. Counselor Veth was still standing. But what do you want? You destroyed the Varn military. You broke their empire. Surely now you will take something. Territory? Resources? Power? No? Nothing? Nothing. James smiled slightly. We do not want Varn territory. We do not want Varn resources. We do not want Varn power. We wanted justice for our dead. We got it. Now we will go home. That is madness. A voice shouted. It was a delegate from a small trading species. You could take everything they have. You could become the greatest power in the galaxy. Why would you walk away? James looked at the delegate with something like pity. Because we are not conquerors. We are not empire builders. We are not like you. He turned to address the whole chamber. Humanity wants only one thing from the galaxy. We want to be left alone. We want to trade. We want to explore. We want to make friends and share cultures. We want peace. His voice hardened. But if anyone threatens that peace, if anyone attacks our colonies, if anyone kills our children to force us to do what they want, James paused. Then they will face the same fate as the Varn. Total war. Complete destruction. No negotiation. No mercy. No surrender. Morris spoke quietly. You are saying that humanity has only one rule. Yes. James nodded. Do not hurt our people. That is our only rule. That is our only rule. Follow it, and we will be the best friends you ever had. Break it, and we will become the worst enemy you could imagine. He turned and walked toward the exit. At the door, he stopped and activated a holographic display. The face of Ambassador David Cole appeared. He was standing before the human government on Earth. This message is being broadcast to every species in the galactic community, David said. His voice was calm and clear. What happened to the Varn Collective was not revenge. It was not conquest. It was consequence. Every screen in the chamber showed the same message. Every alien watched. Humanity does not negotiate with those who kill our civilians. We do not bargain with murderers. We do not pay tribute to terrorists. If you attack our people, we will not come to your table. We will come to your doorstep, and we will ensure you can never threaten anyone again. David paused and looked directly at the camera. This is not a threat. This is a promise. This is a warning. And this is who we are. Harm our people, and there will be no diplomacy. Only reckoning. The message ended. The chamber remained silent. James looked back at the assembled aliens. Now you know who we are. Now you know what we will do. Choose wisely how you treat us. He left. The door closed behind him. For a long time, nobody spoke. Then, slowly, voices began to rise. Arguments, questions, fear, confusion. Elder Morath raised his hand for silence. It took several minutes for the noise to die down. I have a confession to make, Morath said slowly. When I first met the humans, I thought they were weak. They smiled too easily. They laughed too freely. They talked about peace and friendship like children who had never seen the real galaxy. He looked at the screens, which still showed the destroyed Varn fleet. I was wrong. The humans are not weak. They are not naive. They are something far more dangerous. He paused. They are idealists. They believe in things like justice and honor and protecting the innocent. They believe these things are worth dying for. Worth killing for. Counselor Veth shook his head. Such beliefs are foolish. The galaxy is cruel. Only the practical survive. Perhaps, Morath said. But look at what their foolish beliefs have done. In 1 week, they destroyed the third largest military power in the galaxy. They did it without negotiation, without hesitation, without mercy. And then they left, asking for nothing in return. He turned to face the chamber. Ask yourselves this question. What would your species do to protect your children? Would you fight? Would you die? Would you risk everything? Morath's voice grew soft. The humans do not ask that question. They already know the answer. The answer is yes. Always yes. Forever yes. The chamber fell silent again. 10,000 aliens looked at each other with new eyes. The galaxy had changed. The rules had changed. Everything they thought they knew about. Power and survival and negotiation had been proven wrong by a species that had only joined the galactic community. A few decades ago, humanity had sent a message that would echo through the stars for millennia. Do not touch our children. Do not threaten our families. Do not mistake our kindness for weakness, because humans do not negotiate with killers. And now the whole galaxy knew it. 5 years had passed since the Varn War. The galaxy had changed in ways no one expected. Admiral Rachel Webb stood on the bridge of her new ship, the USS Guardian. It was even bigger than the Vengeance had been. 3 kilometers of steel and hope and promise. The flagship of the First Fleet, the symbol of human strength. Through the great windows, she could see a dozen other ships. Human destroyers flew alongside Sylvan cruisers. Centauri science vessels traveled with Mordock cargo ships. The fleet was mixed, combined, united. Something that would have been impossible 5 years ago. The door behind her opened, and a familiar figure walked in. "Secretary General," Rachel said with a small smile. "Welcome aboard." David Cole had changed in 5 years. His hair was whiter. His face had more lines. But his eyes still held that same quiet strength that had guided humanity through its darkest hour. "Admiral Webb," David replied. "The ship looks beautiful. You must be proud." "I am." Rachel turned back to the windows. "Though I never thought I would see this. Human ships flying with alien ships. Not as enemies. Not as cautious strangers. As friends." David nodded. "Remarkable, is it not? 5 years ago, we were the new species. The unknown. The ones everyone thought were too soft for the real galaxy. And now?" David smiled. "Now, they call us the Guardians. The Protectors. The ones you want on your side when trouble comes." It was true. After the Varn War, everything had changed. Species that had ignored humanity suddenly wanted to be their friends. Empires that had missed them as weak suddenly wanted alliances. Everyone had seen what happened to those who attacked human colonies. Everyone wanted to make sure they were never on the wrong side of that equation. But humanity had not used its new reputation for conquest. They had not demanded tribute or territory. They had simply continued doing what they always did: trading, exploring, making friends, building bridges. And whenever someone threatened the peace, whenever pirates attacked shipping lanes or warlords terrorized colonies, humanity was there. Not as conquerors, as protectors. Rachel remembered the pirate clan that had attacked a human freighter 2 years ago. They had killed the crew and taken the cargo. They thought they were safe in their hidden base in the asteroid field. They were wrong. The human rescue fleet had found them in 3 days. The battle had lasted 12 minutes. The pirate base was now a crater. Not a single pirate had survived. Not a single piece of treasure had been taken. The humans had come only for justice. When justice was done, they left. The message was clear. You could trade with humans. You could befriend humans. You could laugh and sing and build with humans. But if you harmed their people, there was nowhere in the galaxy you could hide. "I received a message from Elder Morath yesterday," David said. "He wants to meet at the annual summit." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Morath? The one who called us insane?" "The very same. Apparently, he has something important to say." The summit was held on Station Meridian, the same place where everything had started 5 years ago. The same chamber where the Varn had demanded tribute. The same halls where David had refused. But the atmosphere was completely different now. There was no tension, no fear. Aliens greeted human delegates with warm smiles. Trade agreements were signed without threats. Partnerships were formed without violence. This was the galaxy humanity had always wanted. And they had built it by refusing to accept anything less. "Elder," Morith approached David near the great window that overlooked the stars. The old alien moved slowly now. His 400 years were beginning to show. "Secretary General," Morith said formally. "Thank you for meeting me, Elder." David nodded with respect. "You said you had something important to tell me." Morith was silent for a moment. He looked out at the stars, at the mixed fleet of human and alien ships that patrolled the space beyond. 5 years ago," he said finally, "I called your species insane. I said you did not understand how the galaxy worked. I said you would destroy yourselves with your stubborn principles. I remember. I was wrong." Morith turned to face David. His ancient eyes held something that might have been admiration. "You are not insane. You are simply different. In 10,000 years of galactic history, we have never encountered a species like yours." David tilted his head. "Different how? You cannot be bought." Morith spoke slowly, carefully, as if explaining something precious. "You cannot be threatened. You cannot be bullied or bribed or scared into doing what others want. Your values are not for sale. Your principles are not negotiable." He paused. "Do you know what the other species call you now? In private, when humans are not listening?" David shook his head. "They call you the unbribable ones, the species that cannot be corrupted. The only people in the galaxy who do exactly what they say they will do, no matter the cost." Morith's voice dropped low. "They are terrified of you, and they are inspired by you, both at the same time." David was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled gently. "We have a saying on Earth, Elder. Walk softly and carry a big stick. What does it mean? It means we prefer peace. We prefer trade and friendship and cooperation. But if you force our hand..." David looked out at the stars, where human ships patrolled alongside their new allies. "We do not bluff. We do not threaten. We simply act." Morith nodded slowly. "And that is why the galaxy is at peace. Is it really peace?" David asked. "Or is it fear?" Morith considered the question. "Both, perhaps. Many species are afraid to attack humans. They remember the Varn. They remember what happens when you hurt human children." He paused. "But there is more than fear now. There is something else. Something new." "What?" "Hope." The word seemed strange coming from the ancient alien. "For 10,000 years, the galaxy has run on power and violence and negotiation. The strong prey on the weak. The clever trick the foolish. Everyone has a price, and everyone is for sale. That is how things have always been." Morith turned to face David directly. "But you showed us something different. You showed us that principles can be stronger than power. That values can resist any bribe. That some things are worth fighting for, even dying for, without expecting anything in return." His old voice cracked slightly. "You showed us that there is another way to be." David did not know what to say. He had never expected this. He had expected the galaxy to fear humanity, to respect humanity, perhaps even to hate humanity. He had not expected them to be inspired. "The young ones are the most affected," Morith continued. "Young Sylvans, young Centauri, young Morduk. They look at humanity and they see something they want to be. Something their own cultures told them was impossible." He smiled, and it was a strange, fragile expression on his bark-like face. "You have given the galaxy something it never had before, Secretary General. You have given it a role model." That night, David stood alone on the observation deck of the Guardian. Rachel found him there, staring at the stars. "You look troubled," she said. "Not troubled, just thinking." David turned to face her. "Do you remember what we were fighting for 5 years ago?" "Justice for New Haven, for the 12,000. "Yes, but also more than that." David looked back at the stars. "We were fighting for the right to be ourselves, to have values that matter, to protect our people without apologizing." He paused. I never imagined that the whole galaxy would start watching, start learning, start changing. Rachel stood beside him. Is that a bad thing? I do not know. David's voice was quiet. We did not set out to change the galaxy. We just wanted to protect our children. We just wanted to show that some lines cannot be crossed. We never meant to become whatever we are becoming. Role models, Rachel said. That is what Morath called us. Yes. David shook his head slowly. It is a heavy burden. What if we fail? What if we make mistakes? What if we are not as noble as they think we are? Rachel was silent for a moment. Then she spoke. We will make mistakes. We are human. We are not perfect. But that is not the point. She put her hand on his shoulder. The point is that we try. We try to be better. We try to protect the innocent. We try to stand for something worth standing for. She turned them to face the stars. Look out there, David. 1,000 species. 1 trillion beings. All of them living in a galaxy that is a little bit safer, a little bit kinder, a little bit more just than it was 5 years ago. She smiled. That is our legacy. That is what the 12,000 of New Haven died for. Not revenge. Not power. A better galaxy. A better future. David looked at the stars for a long time. Somewhere out there, children were playing on colony worlds. Families were living without fear. Traders were doing business without threats. The galaxy was at peace. Not because humans were the strongest. Not because humans were the most numerous. But because humans had shown that some things were worth more than survival. Some principles were worth more than profit. Some values were not for sale at any price. And the galaxy, for the first time in 10,000 years, had begun to believe. We should go, David said finally. The summit is not over. There are more hands to shake, more bridges to build. Rachel nodded. And after that? David smiled. It was a warm smile, full of hope. After that, we keep doing what we have always done. We protect our people. We honor our dead. We stand for what we believe in. And we show the galaxy that there is another way. He walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. The Varn tried to teach us that might makes right.